Welcome to the show. So we're just doing a little bit of a sound test. Let me know here if you can hear me this time. So welcome. I hope your week went well. And I hope you enjoyed the little gig we did out by the ocean just before. We had some fun putting that together today. And of course, I got a good producer over here. She keeps me in line, sets us all up. So you ever remember when you were young and we used to just play air band and play around? Well, that's kind of what we were doing today, and we do that every show pretty much. And that's part of being an ex-Jehovah's Witness. When you get out of the religion, it seems like our mind just starts to run. It runs wild like a gazelle. And it's like a lion being trapped in a cage all its life, and then one day the cage door is open, and that lion just runs and roars and sings, or could be a bird in a cage. However you want to analyze this or compare it to, it's like being trapped in a cage, and I was in the cage for 40 years. 40 years, 10 years in, but even getting out of the cage, it's like we have a chain still onto the cage. We didn't go back into the cage, but there's a chain, and we're still anchored down with it. So then when we unlock the chain, that's when the magic happens. And that's what seemed to happen in my life about a year ago, not too long ago. And I started to wake up mentally. So I got out of the cage, still trapped with some of this knowledge and a lot of this knowledge and indoctrination. And once I was able to unlock it, and it seemed like there's little locks all along the way. You got to unlock this indoctrination, and then you got to unlock this indoctrination, and then you got to change this. So this leads me to my next question. If my sound's working good, my good wife might yell at me, and we've been playing this game lately. But she'll say, hey, and it's a deprogramming because sometimes I use words like attendance. I say, well, welcome to the Kingdom Hall. You know how I used to get to open up in the Kingdom Hall, and I was a ministerial servant for a few years. And so you get this stuff in your head, you get to do it enough. And I lived in a little small community when that happened. And I think they used me because they had no brothers. There was only 30 people in the hall when I moved in. And, it was mix of families. It was up in Cold Lake, Alberta, actually. A very nice community, nice people. All the congregation up there is nice. I got a good friend up there still. And he's out, actually. But mentally, he's like all of us, we're still trapped. And there's a lot of unlocking, a lot of little padlocks. But once you get out, you can run like a gazelle, and we start playing air band and things like that, dancing, and it's a lot of fun. Writing, I wrote some poetry. You can go onto my site, you'll see there's some poetry. It just seemed like there was a push of stuff I was making 3 videos a day for a while. And I don't know why. One guy said online, he said, slow down, buddy, you're going to burn out. And I said, well, we live in Canada. It's cold up here. You got to give her. So, the weather up here, we woke up this morning and we look out like it's springtime, right? It's what day is it? It's April 11th. April 11th. So April showers brings May flowers, right? That's the way most of the world is. We woke up this morning, it was snowing out. The ground was all white. And that's the prize of living in Canada. Most of Canada, we get these snowstorms in the middle of April. And it's good moisture. All the snow was melted, like pussy willows are coming out up here. But we thought, little parts of the grass is getting green a little bit. And so we know spring is around the corner. And it melted off through the day, and it's supposed to snow tonight some more, but that's part of living in Canada. So the ocean was nice. It was nice to get out to the ocean and escape, and that's what we do in the studio here. We get to escape a bit and have a little fun. So I wanted to thank the band there in the back. they've been really good, and the audience, of course, we've got a little bit of an audience here, so welcome to our studio. And you guys can go, the band, they can go now. Well, stick around for a bit. We have a exciting show coming up here. So towards the end of the show, we're going to, of course, want you to stay right to the end, because you get to look at a 1-minute video that I did not even look at. And it's a 1-minute video I made. It's going to go online tomorrow. But because you guys are here tonight, you get to see the unlisted version this video's made. It's online. I haven't seen it. My good wife built it. She put stuff together in the background, and she did all the editing. So we're going to watch that together. But I felt pretty good about it. I felt like I really got to say what I wanted to say. Like I really got my voice out. So I haven't seen it, but I want to warn you. You know, like I said a few things. I kind of rethinking it now, but anyways, what's said is said, what's done is done. Isn't that what God said? Something like that? Anyways, you're going to get to see it tonight. So, news. What's happened this week? Recap the news. Now, the news this week, we put a video out earlier on a bombing in San Salvo, Italy. Bombing at a Kingdom Hall early in the morning. It was actually early in the morning, and then they found it out. It was a paper bomb, they call it. Like how can you get a piece of paper like this to blow the door open in a Kingdom Hall and blow chairs around? A paper bomb. What do you put it in an envelope? I don't know anything about bombs, but I don't want to use that word too much. YouTube will talk about. Well, we're just talking YouTube. Don't worry about that. Don't get excited. So anyways, this is what happened. And so Wally there at JW Thoughts, he put a good video out on that as well. He covered the topics. So he was online here earlier today. I seen that. And I'm just going to check my screen. I'm going to get out of this screen. We're back in here. So I want to say hi to everyone out there. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm looking at the screen here. So yeah, check Wally out at JW Thoughts. He was on the link there earlier. If you haven't subscribed to him yet, you'll want to subscribe to him. He does some really good videos. So I think I got everything covered on that one. Now we are going to get into our program. Now, the first part of the program, we're going to cover some scriptures just because that's what we do here. And some people wonder if I'm religious or anything. And I really don't know, like at this point of the game. I put out a survey to see what you guys are. And it seems like more and more people, as the survey's out there longer, are kind of indecisive, like we don't know. Like the thing is, you get out of a rabbit hole, like I was in it for 40 years. And once you get out of it, you really look back down and you just don't know. But the one thing I feel that there is a God, that there's something spiritual, that there's a God. And I like, if I'm going to choose a mentor, I like Jesus. I like Jesus. And I studied, we study about this. So I don't have a problem using the Bible. And really, when I think about it, I think the Bible, I think in one of the scriptures I've used in different shows, God is not partial. So if God is not partial and everyone on the earth is acceptable to him, it says everyone that fears God is acceptable to God, that could mean, and that would mean to me, that all over the earth and all the different races and religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, all the big religions anyways, all over the earth, even Jehovah's Witnesses, even though we call them cults and the Mormons. But people, we're talking about people, not religions. Because remember, God is not religious. The word religious means to believe in a supernatural. Well, God does not have a supernatural. God is the supernatural. So God is not religious. And God does not choose a religion. And even the Christian Bible says God is not partial. God loves everyone. That's what the Bible tells us, the Christian Bible. And I bet you if I looked at the Quran and all these other holy books on the earth, they all say, you could probably comb through them and find that in them. But for argument's sake, I use the Bible because I know it a little bit. I don't claim to be a scholar at all, but I don't mind using it. Now, the scriptures that we're going to look at today is from Proverbs, and I can show you the screen if you wish here. Do a screen capture, I'll pull you right in. And so we're looking at Proverbs in the Amplified Bible, and it says, "Do not boast at yourself in tomorrow, for you know not what a day may bring forth." So really telling me not to boast. And we used this scripture in a couple of lives here. Now, the next one is, "Let another man praise you, and not your own mouth, the stranger, and not your own lips." So let someone else do the praising. We don't want to be braggarts and out in the street corners bragging about who we are. Now, here's the third one, the point. "Stone is heavy, and sand is weighty, but a fool's unreasoning wrath is heavier and more intolerable than both of them." So we'll talk about what can happen. We can become fools online as creators. We are creators ourselves. And there's many of us on this XJW side of the fence, and all over the world there's creators on every single... YouTube is becoming one of the biggest things for entertainment and learning. People are learning how to run computers, how to be creators. You can learn how to grow, you can learn how to plant, and you can learn how to be off-grid. You can learn anything on YouTube. So, but if we're on YouTube and we're saying things that can get us into trouble, it says a fool's unreasoning. It says a fool's wrath is heavier and more intolerable than both, than sand and anything weighty than a stone. So our words can be very heavy if we use them wrong. So that's where we have to be careful. Now we're going to slip down to verse 14 here. And this, I'm going to put it up high so you can see that verse 14. I can't blow it up. That's as good as I can do. But you can look it up in your own Bible, Proverbs 27, verse 14. Now, you remember as Jehovah's Witnesses, and it seems like yesterday for me, even though it was 12 years, but we get up, Saturday rolls around, and you work all week or whatever, you're a working person, you work all week, and Saturday rolls around, and you just like to sleep in. If I could only sleep in one Saturday, but let's say you have privileges in the congregation, you're reaching out, or you're an elder, or you're a servant, or a pioneer, and you have to take the lead because you have to show up at these Saturday service arrangement groups. And sometimes you're even scheduled to take the arrangement, and you have to be there early, and you have to be prepared, and you have to kind of have something to say, and you got to show people how to present the Watchtower and the Awake magazines, basically, and tie a scripture in. Watchtower is always good about teaching us to at least tie a scripture in. Now, what happens, and I didn't realize this till the other day, that the Bible is actually against that. It's against getting up in the morning, going out there and calling on your neighbors in the morning. Did you know that? Show the scripture. If you're a Jehovah's Witness or you're PMO, you're in and you have a mate that's in or something, show them the scripture. It's right here. I'm going to read it. It says, "The flatterer who loudly praises and glorifies his neighbor, rising early in the morning, it shall be counted as a cursing to him, for he will be suspected of sinister purposes." So if you wake your neighbor up early in the morning before noon, it's called sinister. It's cursing. It shall be counted as a cursing. And you can read this in different versions of the Bible, but it's not a good thing to wake your neighbor up in the morning. And how many Jehovah's Witnesses, you go out and they want you to get to the Kingdom Hall at 9:30 in the morning, so you can be out at your first door at 10. Knock on your first door at 10. That's what we were told. And so you get out there, you're knocking on your first door at 10, and then if you work your way until noon, you've counted 2 hours. So now if you did that every Saturday, there's 4 Saturdays in a month, 2 times 4, you are now an average publisher in the world. All you got to do is the Saturdays, but you've got to knock on your first door by 10. or you can't start your time. You got to start your time, right? So that's what we were taught. But this scripture says it's a curse. It's a curse to knock on your neighbor's door in the morning. And how many people, when we knock on those doors in the morning, they work night shift or whatever, they work late, or they're up partying. How many people, they work their arses off all week. Friday night, they go out and have a few beers with their buddies, and they're up late, and they just want to sleep in. They just want to sleep in. You even want to sleep in. You didn't even want to go to the arrangement. And you had to, because you got to take the lead. So you drag your family out of bed, and you get them all down to this arrangement. You're all out, and hopefully there's no bullets flying, because that's the other problem that's happening nowadays. So we've had this rash of stuff. But we don't want to be out there early in the morning knocking on doors. And that's what the Bible's telling us. It's a curse. So I thought that was funny. I won't harp on it no more. But I think if Jehovah's Witnesses really applied that scripture and started the arrangements in the afternoon, and this way all the people in the Kingdom Hall that work for a living, and they all do, get to sleep in. Let them sleep in with their families. Let them just have a family morning until noon. Have your dinner, and then maybe have a service arrangement at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Everyone would be pumped to go out at 2 o'clock. But no, they get you out at 10 in the morning, pissing people off. And then the elders used to try to get, okay, well, show up for the 1 o'clock arrangement. So we'd work until noon. You don't have time to go home, sit down and have a proper meal with your family. So you end up running through the drive-through McDonald's, eating crap food, and then going to the arrangement for 1 o'clock, because we're pioneering this month. It's April. Everyone's auxiliary pioneering. We have to really put a push on, get all these tracts out. And that's what happens. They try to reach everyone in the world. And they're knocking on their doors in the morning, pissing people off. And the Bible's against it. The Bible is against it. So I think they should change it to 2 o'clock. Now, if you change your arrangement to 2 o'clock, if Jehovah's Witnesses did that, if the governing body is who we'd have to talk to here, man. And Jehovah's Witness elders could put this forth. Circuit overseers could put this forth. Use this scripture. We're trying to follow the scriptures. So if you're PMO and you can get this into circuit overseer, that'd be cool to get them commenting on in this and talking about this subject. Because if they changed it to 2 o'clock, everyone would show up. You'd have a huge arrangement at 2 o'clock. Everyone's had time to be at their family, have a late lunch, brunch, show up for 2 o'clock, and you work until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You're going to catch people at home. You're going to catch people out mowing their lawn. You're going to do informal. It's just going to be a way, way, way better than the current program by following the scriptures. That's what I think. Anyways, verse 20. It says, Sheol, the place of the dead, and the Abaddon, the place of destruction. The Abaddon are never satisfied. So, people keep dying. So the place of Sheol is never satisfied. But here's the other thing. So the lust of the eyes of a man is never satisfied. Now, why does it not say that of a woman? Why does it say the lust of a man? So I'm waiting for you guys' comments. Help me out there. I just thought that would be a good discussion. I can't figure that one out. We're going to carry on. Verse 1 to 4. Well, we did that. Okay, we covered that. So that's all done. And we're going to move on here. Now, this scripture here is taken from Revelation 1 and 20. And this is another scripture I'm looking for some help on. Revelation 1 and 20. It says, as to the hidden meaning, the mystery of the 7 stars, which you saw on my right hand. That's Jesus. This is in Revelation, Jesus talking. This is my left hand, by the way, but my mouse is in my right hand. So the 7 stars, which you saw in my right hand, and the 7 lampstands of gold, the 7 stars. So as to the meaning and the mystery, it has it in brackets. This is the Amplified version. And so it's talking about the 7 stars in Jesus' right hand and the 7 lampstands of gold. And the 7 stars are the 7 angels, messengers. It has in brackets here in the Amplified version. Messengers of the 7 assemblies or churches. Assemblies, churches. Jehovah's Witnesses use the word congregations. So And the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. So now, what does this all mean? I'm looking for comments because I'm researching this right now. And I've been looking all over. I've been looking at the JW research. I looked at all that. They believe that the 7 stars means elders. So that's what they believe this is. That it stands for the elders. So I have a problem with that because, and not only the Jehovah's Witnesses, I found some other ones believe that too. So they call them other religions, or evangelical religions have written papers on this, and they say, yeah, we believe it's the pastors. And they don't say this is. No one really, when I do my research, no one really talks like a Jehovah's Witness watchtower. The Jehovah's Witness watchtower talks like, well, this is the way it is. This is a matter of fact, and this is it, and this is where we're right. But when you read other people's papers, they say, well, this is what I think, or this is my supposition, or this is why we think it's this, and they might use some other scriptures. But no one's as bold as the Jehovah's Witnesses, it seems like, in the research I've done. Now, Jesus says, on my right hand, there's 7 stars. And he went on to say, he says the 7 stars are 7 angels. Now, how can elders be angels? You want to know how many elders I know that committed adultery, commit fornication? There's lots. And there's a lot of good elders, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of elders. Like, how could this elders be an angel? No. I'm not buying that. I don't buy that one. But Jehovah's Witnesses, that's what they believe. So, and the other problem that I've seen firsthand, and I had discussions with elders on this when I was trying to point out a fault of an elder, and the elder told me that, no, we're angels. We're likened to angels in Jesus' right hand. We're picked by Christ personally. I don't believe, Brother Hool, you no, I can't. And you know what? 2 weeks later, that elder was disfellowshipped. So, anyways, I don't buy that. And I said to my wife, I probably was waking up or falling away, or because I was always questioning them on these things, and that was way back in 1998. I wasn't. No. Now, the other thing is the 7 assemblies it talks about, or churches, groups of people. So now, and if there's like 120,000 elders on earth, so why can Jehovah's Witnesses say, well, 7 here means, 7 elders means 120,000, or all of the elders, it means something else. And then they go over a few verses, and 144,000 here means, no, this means the anointed, the governing body. No, literal. But over here, figurative. Who makes those decisions? So those are other questions that kind of tie me in a knot. Who makes the decision as to what's literal and figurative? It seems like most of these scholars just decide. They just figure, this is what we're going to go with. And and you see, this is what builds skepticism in me, because when I logically look at all of these different ones, they're all doing the same thing. They're all cherry picking. And they all kind of have an idea what they want to believe in, and so they try to use the Bible in different ways to make it match what they want to believe in. And it's kind of a form of indoctrination, and they all do it. All the religions do this. So, but I'm still curious. I look at 7, and I'm looking for feedback, and I'm going to keep researching this. And if I can't figure, because so far no one's really agreeing on anything, but 7 to me is completeness. Now, if you Google 7 on Earth, there's 7 continents, 7 seas. All of the Earth is 7s. It's split into 7s. And so 7 to me would be completeness. So 7 stars, angels on Jesus' right hand. I'm going to tell you what I think that is. But then, and it talks about them being messengers. And then it talks about the 7 assemblies out there, 7 churches, 7 congregations. So this is all over the earth. All of, not just Christian congregations, this is all of the religions, all of the congregations worshiping God. And they all worship God. They all believe in one God. Even though in Hindu and them places there's all these mini gods. Just like Jesus is a mini god, Like we have God and then Jesus, unless you're a Trinitarian. Depends how you want to look at all that. And that's another area that blows my mind some days when I try to think like a true Trinitarian, and a Trinitarian that believes, yeah, Jesus is part of God or from God, God's direct son, first created. Jesus rules. Jesus is like God, but God is still greater, because Jesus always prayed to his Father. But yet a true Trinitarian believes that God is on earth. So God is praying to God? Don't know. That's where I get caught up. I can't follow it. So then I just move on to something else. So now the seven stars, seven angels, the seven assemblies, seven churches. That means if seven's complete, all of the religions, all of the places of worship all over the earth that worship God. Let's take this outside of the Christian religion. And it doesn't mean just because the Bible's Christian that it can't apply to the whole earth. I believe if it's made from God, it should apply to the whole earth. So then, what about this seven stars? Who is this now? Well, here's what I think. And I'm going to go to my next piece of research. And I'm doing some other deeper research. But now, here's where we get into it. I went all the way up here. And we won't look at this. But I asked the question, Yahweh Canaanite Pantheon. And sure enough, when you do the research on Yahweh was formerly the god of the Canaanite guild of a metallurgist. And there's a lot of words I don't know. I'd have to do a lot of research. Who is it? There's one other creator that's doing a lot of research on this. What's her name? Set. I forget. But anyways, Yahweh, the name for the God of the Israelites, representing the biblical pronunciation. So El, the creator, and then it goes on to talk about the storm god Baal. So now it's almost like Yahweh has come from Baal. Baal is part of Yahweh and became the Israelite god. Now I have to do a lot more research on this. But now when we start researching, I'm not going to spend much time on that in this show. But when we start researching this, we're getting outside of the Bible. Now I go back to that scripture in Revelation, and it starts to make sense. So if Jesus' right hand, Jesus is God or with God, part of God, and Jesus is right now in control, or will be, or is, and then all the seven gods would match the seven pantheon gods, the seven stars, over all the nations. And all these pantheon gods look after different parts of the earth. So if you look at some of the pantheons would follow the Hindus and Islam, and of course Yahweh would follow the Jews. They don't use his name. It's very, very, if you're Jewish out there and I'm using the name, I apologize, but they take it wrongly. So anyways, I'm looking at that. Maybe that could mean that. Looking for your comments. Okay, so we're going to move on. Yes, this is a good one. So I was looking at a time for everything, Ecclesiastes. I like that part, Ecclesiastes 3, if you read it. We covered that in other parts, but I'm going to go right to the bottom. Parts, okay. We covered that in other videos. It's not a kingdom home. We covered this in other videos, right? Yeah. And here's the point I want to bring out here. For a lot of the audience, I think 69% of our audience is my age. And when we get to a certain age in life, we look around and we look at our life and we wonder, what did we do in life? What was life about? We start analyzing. And as we get a little older, perhaps we have a little bit more time to analyze and to think. And perhaps it bothers us to think. I'm not sure. But anyways, here's what King Solomon thought of. He says in verse 22, he says, "So I saw that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his work, for that is his lot. Who can bring him to see what will be after him?" So, we have to take time out on this journey that we're on earth to enjoy ourselves. Go fishing, do something. And I know that has been hard for me as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, because I was always on the clock. I was always up out the door at 9 o'clock, because by the time you get to the service arrangement, you want to knock on your first door at 10. You have to be there for 9. It's at 9:30. You got to be on. You just got to be rolling. And if you're pioneering, it's important to get your time in, and you're so time driven. And I was so time driven for the last, well, for my whole life, because it's I was pioneering. And so once you get to be a pioneer, it's 70 hours a month, and you're just time driven. But to get there, you're still time driven, because you're trying to meet the qualifications your whole life. And it seems like your whole life you're working to be something. To be what? And all those hours, those Saturday mornings, you could have been just spending time with your family, maybe going fishing. I lost a lot of time with my kids. So we can't beat it up too much, but we can learn from it as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and we can share this with the world. We can talk to others around us and tell them, take some time, because you're going to get older and you're going to look back and you're going to wish you would have took more time, got to know your kids a little better or something. So you have it now, you do it. And so now King Solomon, we go to the next, we just flip the page in the Bible, go to Ecclesiastes 4, evil under the sun. And here's what he says. He says, again, I saw all the oppression that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. So, King Solomon looked around, and there was a lot of problems, and we see that today, and you wonder who's there for people, right? So it says, on the other side of their oppressors, there was power, and there was no one to comfort them. And I thought the dead who are already dead more fortunate than the living who are still alive. But better than both is he who has not been and has not seen the evil deeds that are done under the sun. So he talked about all the evilness, and it just seems like you're better not even to be alive in some cases. And when you look at the news some days, and I don't know you as the audience where you're calling from, but I know there's audience all over the earth. So there's a lot of things going on, and it's not good. So he goes on to talk about all of the vanity under the sun, and he says in verse 7, again, I saw all the vanity under the sun. Verse 8, one person who has no other, either son or brother, yet there is no end to all his toil. And his eyes are never satisfied with riches, so he never asks, for who am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure? This also is vanity and an unhappy business. So you see, sometimes we just drive after the money. And it seems like the world is designed that way. You can get rich. So many great get-rich-quick schemes. I tried a few and lost all my money. I didn't, not big things, but they were doing in the congregation at one time. They were doing penny stocks in the one we were doing, and there was some sister that was into it, and they were going to get rich. And and so I had a few RSPs saved up, and I gave them to my ex-wife, and she lost them all doing these penny stocks. So just these get-rich-quick schemes, they don't work. And we were told that over and over again in the Bible. But here's the one thing that does work. And, where I'm at, I'm blessed, because when I left the Kingdom Hall, I was very lonely and unsure. But now, 10 years later, 12 years later, I have a lovely wife who I've been with. We've been married for many, many years, 10 years. And here's what it says in verse 9. It says, two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Although a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. So a very beautiful scripture when talking about having a partner. And you could be a roommate. I remember when I was younger, I was in my 18, 19, and a couple of us brothers, actually 3 of us brothers, got together and rented a house. And it was cheaper than an apartment or anything. So we rented a house, the 3 of us, and we even had the book study there. And the basement was open, so we had the book study there, and it was in them days we had Thursday night book studies, so it was a cool thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're good.
Oh,
Keep going.
so anyways, even you have a roommate. Two is better than one,
Yeah.
and because the just a couple summers ago, I was out swatting a bee nest, and I've never been allergic to bees or anything, but a whole bunch of wasps came down and stung me around the neck here, and I hardly made it to the house. I fell down between the house, and I had all these stings here and everything. I couldn't breathe. And my wife called 911. They came and she helped me into the house and they gave me the EpiPen. So now I have to have an EpiPen. But if she wasn't there, I couldn't have made that 911 call. I had no idea I could get this could happen. I was stung so many times all my life, but just one day, and they say that's how it happens. Sometimes you know, we can only fight stuff off so long.
Yeah. Karma was quick that day.
Yeah, karma was quick for me knocking down the wasps.
Okay. That's good.
Anyways, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
Belief. We're going to talk now about belief, and we're going to talk about cults a little bit. Yeah, we're going to talk about them. We're going to have some fun with that tonight. Different type of YouTube cults, like what we're doing right here, YouTubers. This is fun. So belief. And to get here, we want to talk because you don't want to be involved in a cult, right? On YouTube, not necessarily. Maybe you might want to be. Now, belief is an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. So that's what belief is. And I'm gonna just go here. I'm gonna go back to the studio here. So belief. So belief is also trust, faith, or confidence in someone or something. So to trust someone, belief. This is a belief. I still got belief in myself. So we're going to talk about belief in myself in detail. Now we're going to go over to cult. Is it similar to belief? Well, cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. The cult of Saint Olaf is one of the examples. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. A network of Satan worshipping cults. See, that's normally what we think of when we think of cult. And that's what we used to think of as Jehovah's Witnesses. There's no way we're in a cult because there's so many Satan cults out there. So many cults, right? And we're not a small group because Jehovah's Witnesses lasted several generations. They kind of grow out of the word cult, so they become a sect of Catholicism, really. A sect, and there's lots of sects. Sects are almost like little cults, but they're not. They're religions, right? Typically, cults, well, they can be charities too. That's the problem with these charities, right? Now, okay, a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. A cult of personality surrounding the leaders. Now, here's where it gets dicey for Jehovah's Witnesses. Even under the dictionary Oxford, you can go to your Oxford dictionary. And a cult of personality surrounding the leaders. And this is where it gets dicey with Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body. It's very culty around those governing body because they can make you die by not taking a blood transfusion. So that's very, very culty. I didn't realize that when I was in it. Of course, you don't. You just think that's the best thing because you're doing God's will. Okay, so that's cult. Now, belief, we talked about belief on our last couple of videos. We're born with belief, wanting to believe in something. We're born with that. We're wired that way. Now, that's why it's so easy to get into a cult, because we want to believe in something. Now, why do people believe in religion? Why do they believe in organized religion? As well as being acts of social unity, even more for formal rituals, also alter brain chemistry. So that's what it does. It alters our brain chemistry. There's nothing wrong with it in a good way. So it increases the levels of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin in the brain, chemicals that make us feel good and want us to do things again and again and provide a closeness to others. So that's what religion does. It's an act of social unity, believing in God, and it changes the chemistry in our brain. Nothing wrong with that. Why do we need to believe in God? Why do people need to believe in God? That's what this question is. God knows everything we're going through at this very moment and everything we will go through in the future. So we know that that came from spiritual life. So this is just kind of their take on it. So I go down, why is psychology behind belief in God? This is from Psychology Today. Psychologists who study the origins of religion say belief in God relies on several intuitions, including a teleological bias. What is that? It's the assumption that certain objects or events were designed intentionally. And Cartesian dualism, what is that? The belief that the mind can exist independently of the body. So, can the mind or can our thoughts exist once our body dies? That's what it's talking about. These intuitions that we have. So when we die, when we're on our deathbed, there's always an intuition that there's going to be something next. Is that just because we hope, and then people have died and kind of come back? Their heart quits beating for 5 or 10 minutes, and then they revive and they say they've seen things. So it opens up all kinds of studies. It's interesting. And the Bible talks about the soul, the body, and the spirit. And my wife and I had this discussion the other day. Now, in the Jehovah's Witness religion, we were taught that the body and the soul is the same thing. And the spirit is what goes out. The spirit goes out from us. But what they teach is that everything dies at death. Everything dies, and there's nothing. And then after the Great Tribulation, if you're lucky, you'll get resurrected if you're in the book, good book. So there's nothing. And then many of the other religions teach that the body dies, but the soul goes on, goes to places, goes to heaven or hell. That's what a lot of religions teach. So Jehovah's Witnesses teach a little different. Now, when did humans start believing in God? That's an interesting question. Prehistoric evidence of religion. The exact time when humans first became religious remains unknown. However, research in evolutionary archaeology shows credible evidence of religious rituals around the mid-Paleolithic area of 45 to 200,000 years ago. So it seems like it goes right back to the beginning when they had religion. So why is it important to believe? It helps us to adopt a growth mindset and cultivate the ability to accept and learn from our mistakes, to believe. This is to believe in something. And we're getting close to the end here. What happens to your brain when you believe in God? That's a good question. What happens to our brain? Well, it says we permanently change the structure of those parts of the brain that control our moods. We give rise to our conscious notion of self and shape our sensory perceptions of the world. So intense long-term contemplation of God and other spiritual values appears to permanently change the structure of those parts of the brain. So we have a different sense of consciousness that, and there's another study I read. I couldn't pull it up, but it was a study that the scientists they did with kids, and they put kids in a room and they put a mascot in the room and they said, okay, that mascot has eyes and it can tell us what you guys do, and then so they leave and they kind of watch on the camera and the kids are all good. And then they put the other set of kids in the same set of kids in a room and said, yeah, just have fun. Here's some stuff. No one's watching. The teacher will be back by the time the clock gets to 12. The teacher will be, you guys have 3 hours to have fun. And the kids just went wild, like they just wrecked the place. But the point of the survey or the research was to show if something's watching you, humanity seems to be better. Where if humanity thinks that no one's watching them, they can get away with things. No one's watching, right? And that seems to be one of the studies. Now, that's the end of that. Oh yeah, and then the last thing is, what is it called if you don't believe in God, but believe in something? What is that called? So for a lot of us that get out of religion, we kind of believe in something, but I don't know, you don't believe in God, you don't know what to believe in, but you believe in something. Well, they call that agnostic theism or agnosticism, or yeah, it's agnostic theism. It's a big word. It says it's a philosophical view that encompasses both theism and agnosticism. An agnostic theist believes in the existence of one or more gods, but regards the basis of this proposition as unknown or inherently unknowable. So that led me down a whole another rabbit hole of studying, because I'm wondering, well, what am I? I'm not sure what, in a lot of sense, but really, if you're following Christ, you're Christian, Christian, I would think. Just that I don't follow the whole Bible. Now, agnostic theism is a philosophical view that encompasses both theism and agnostic. But self-described agnostics look very different from atheists on this question. While very few agnostics, 3%, say they believe in God as described in the Bible, a clear majority, 62%, say they believe in some other kind of spiritual force. Aliens, maybe? Don't know. What do agnostics believe? Maybe it'll answer it here. In contrast, the word agnostic refers to a person who neither believes or disbelieves in a god or religious doctrine. There you have it. It's not that they believe or don't believe. Here's what it says. Agnostics assert that it's impossible. So what they're saying, it's impossible to know how the universe was created or whether or not there's divine beings. It's like, how do we know? It's like science. How do we know? Science is kind of looking at these other dimensions and string theories and things like that, but they're all theories, right? So here we go a little further. What is it called when you believe in God but you're not religious? You believe in God, but you don't believe in any of the organized religions. It says, while knowns include agnostic atheists, most people in this category retain a belief in God or some higher power. Many describe themselves as spiritual, but not religious, and they give that an acronym. They call it SBNR, spiritual but not religious. That's how the researchers refer to us. That's kind of where I'm at in that category. So what is the difference between an agnostic theist and an agnostic atheist? And agnostics do not believe that it is possible for humans to know whether any deities exist with any degree of certainty. An individual can be an agnostic atheist, someone who does not believe in any gods but does not think it's possible to know one way or another. So yeah, we get back to the science part of it. Like, how do you really know? And I agree with that. Like, how do you really know? So, I guess for me, I just have this feeling. But maybe the feeling is just endorphin related. Maybe that's just how the endorphins work in the brain, and there's a bit of science to that. And we get these feelings from thinking that there's something there, but maybe what we think is there isn't really what's there. We could be surprised at the whole end game. We might find out maybe the whole thing is aliens from another planet landed here thousands of years ago, and they were digging gold in Africa and they needed gold for their ships, so they actually made some human beings like them. They were aliens. So I was reading a book, Stitchin. I shouldn't even bring these subjects up without having the book here, but I read a book here about this, and it kind of went to the Sumerian gods, and it was quite interesting. The 12th Planet, that's what it was called, the 12th Planet. And there's a whole series of books on that. So, do agnostics drink alcohol? This is one of the questions. Can you imagine that? And it says a third of agnostics fall into the binge drinking category, making them more likely to consume alcohol than Catholics and all major Protestant groups, as well as those who are nothing in particular. I found, and I don't know about drinking habits. Like I haven't researched this, but I found in the Kingdom Hall, and I was in 5 Kingdom Halls over the years, alcohol was a big problem. Always a big problem. And I know elders, like when I was traveling up north, and I'd take, because I couldn't sign the territories out, so I would basically hire elders that wanted to come up, and it would be an experience, and they'd get to say they went in this unassigned territory, and we'd fly them up, or I would, and because I had work contracts, and we'd do the unassigned territories. So I had one, well, just about one, two, three. I had 3 of them that I brought up over 3 different years, and they all had to have alcohol. And you'd fly into the hub up there, Norman Wells, and there's a liquor store, so everyone would fill up on alcohol, put it in their briefcases. We'd fly into all these little communities. Well, all these little communities were dry communities. You'd fly in and you'd fly community, it might be a week before you get back. And so all this wine, so the one brother, he's an elder sign, he's got his briefcase all filled with wine, but he camouflaged it all with Watchtower and the Awakes. And the RCMP, and this is Spiritual Week in one of the communities, drum dances and stuff like that. And he says, and I was shitting my pants in the plane, and I thought, we're going to get caught, and we're Jehovah's Witnesses. And he was so calm. He was an older brother. And he had his briefcase, and he opens it up. He says, unless you want to watch Tower and the Awake, he says to the RCMP, and they just wave him through, right? And so we go in and we get our hotel, and we get into the hotel, and the first thing he's pouring himself, you want a wine? And sure, I guess. And then one of the other brothers I went with, he loved rye whiskey, and he'd take a bottle of rye into these communities, and he'd have his whiskey every night. So, and I'd have it with him too. Like I'm no innocent angel. I would have a drink with these brothers, but I just know that all the congregations had a lot of drinking. Do agnostics celebrate Christmas? And so it says, and so can religious rituals, which might explain why so many people who aren't otherwise religious. So they do, because of the rituals, including agnostics like me, this guy who wrote this article, Science. This is from Science America. So he says he's an agnostic. He says, including agnostics like me, I still celebrate holidays and Christmas and Hanukkah or whatever. So we especially need these rituals in this most benighted of seasons, when we're prone to dwelling on life's darkest aspects. And I agree with that. What I agree with is if there's good energy, good, like love, right? Love, Jesus taught love, right? So if there's good energy coming from that season, what's wrong with it? And Christmas time here in our area, they do things. They hand socks out to the homeless. There's all kinds of programs Christmas time. So, is there a church for agnostics? This is an interesting one. There actually is. It's called the Unitarian Universalism Church. It's all over the world. Members of the American Unitarian Association of Universalism Church of America, 1961. And so can I believe in God but not go to church? Most people who stop attending church services still believe in God, according to the new research commissioned by Church of Scotland. Many who no longer attend church choose to express their faith in new ways, said the Scotland's National Church. So more and more people are not going to church. We've done studies, we've looked at some studies on that. But they're still spiritual, but they take church in offline. So what is the argument for agnosticism? So this goes on. I'm not going to cover it all. I think that's enough on that. I thought it was an interesting subject. I hope you learned a little bit. I learned something. Every time I do research, I do a little bit of learning. Lots of learning, actually. So now we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about how to walk the freeing path of believing in yourself. So I'm going to put this on my screen capture here so you can follow along with me. And I can make myself smaller, but I'm not going to. because you guys just see a few pictures as I roll up. So here's a guy. How to walk the freeing path of believing in yourself. So that's the first part. We talked about believing. And the first step to healing, I believe, this is my belief, is believing in yourself. And sometimes we quit. We're not sure what to believe in when we leave religion, or we're transitioning, or we're not sure. But believe in yourself. We can be our biggest cheerleaders or our biggest critics, and the difference between the two options matters. Believing in yourself is crucial. It's crucial to success. So if you can believe, you can really achieve. It helps to adopt a growth mindset and cultivate the ability to learn from your mistakes. Developing these characteristics can take patience and time. So I actually started to take a little bit of that course. We can put this link if you guys want it in there. The benefits of believing in yourself. Self-belief is a formula to personal and professional success. So it goes on to talk about, do you berate yourself when you make a mistake? Do you, for some reason or other, think negative? Self-talk will make you a better person. Do we kind of give ourselves crap inside our minds? We kind of talk about things. At some point we do. We can even go back and say, well, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, But at some point we have to forgive ourselves and move on. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we got disfellowshipped, and everyone makes mistakes. But at some point we have to forgive ourselves and move on. And that's the first step. It's within yourself, and then you can talk to God about it. If you're religious, you can talk to God about it. So otherwise, the energy will only hold you back. It'll prevent you from taking risks and stepping up to achieve your goals. And at the end of the day, you have to believe in yourself. Doing so will bring you one step closer to manifesting a better life. So here it is. Number one, if you don't, who else will? So it's up to you. No one's going to do this for you. You'll fail more gracefully. Look, it happens to all of us. Even the most successful people know what failure is like. I think we talked about Elon Musk. You talk about Edison, the light bulb. He made thousands of filaments. You thought the guy would have gave up, but to this day we have lights, because of these guys. Number three, being followers, or it says being follows doing. Something you have to act positive to get positive. So being follows doing. I don't know if I like that wording. If you don't believe you're worthy, neither will other people. You have to suspend your disbelief and take the leap to act like you believe in yourself first. And you'll see yourself through new eyes, and so will others. Negativity begets negativity. That's why you should flip the script. When you show more positivity, you will attract more positive people in your life. So we talked about the law of attraction, how what you put out comes back. Jesus says you will reap what you sow. So what you put out will come back. That's what's in the Bible. You'll inspire yourself to keep going. You'll start reaching your goals, you'll find. You might not think you can. I didn't think I could do this online stuff. I was going to quit a whole bunch of times because I couldn't figure the technology out. And then my good wife over there, she says, oh, come and look at this. There's a guy on YouTube who shows you how to use OBS. And by the way, if you want to get into this, there's a really good guy, and I just watched it a few times and I could figure it out. And the more I used it, the more we can do with these studios. And it's free. This one's free. So if you want to be a creator, you can help out like we're doing. And we need more of them because some of them have to quit for various reasons. Now, it goes on to talk about common roadblocks. So positive self-talk is easier said than done. You must control your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Rewiring your brain to think positive thoughts in place of criticism is very tricky. 3 common roadblocks people face regarding self-belief are comparison. So social media is bad in these cases. Seeing someone else thrive. Remember in the congregation, you'd have these ones that got all the assembly parts and they had all the meeting parts and they got to do all the get up and do all the Watchtower samples on the stage at the Kingdom Hall. I don't know if they still do that kind of stuff anymore. But I used to sit back and, I was a brother in the Kingdom Hall, and I used to sit back there, and I couldn't be an elder because of family circumstances. And, if all your family's not measuring up, you don't qualify as a brother. And I thought that was the most unfair thing. I'm getting judged because maybe my kids don't, one of the kids don't want to be a JW, or maybe they don't want to go out in the service. Maybe they want to go and play soccer at school, join the soccer team or something. Then I can't be used. I'm not going to beat my kids up. That's just the way I was. I was a bad JW. But anyways, comparison. We do that. We did that at the Kingdom Hall, and it was always comparison. My mom's worldly, and she did go to the Kingdom Hall for a bit, and she quit. And she says, "I'm not going because they all judge you, and if you're not wearing the nice clothes and the nice shoes, and I'd have to go out and spend $500 on a wardrobe, and I'm not doing that." And that's what my mom said. And she was a heavier lady, and she says, "I'm not going just because I'm judged by how I look." So comparison's a bad thing. It is. The past. Sometimes there's some truth to this phrase, the past, right? The past can haunt us. It's hard to shake it. Shake off a rough childhood or an unhealthy relationship. Self-reflection is good, but not at the expense of your mental health. We can overdo thinking, rethinking all this past stuff. So talking to a mental health professional is a great way to work through your past struggles and stop them from affecting your present. So we have to stop rethinking our past. Number 3, current relationships. Do you have that one friend that's always putting you down? Maybe it's a parent or a colleague that you dread seeing because they make you feel small. Human beings are social creatures by nature, but a lack of approval can be detrimental to your self-confidence. So sometimes we might have to check our relationships out. And if we're in a relationship that's always knocking us down, it might be time to reevaluate it. So roadblocks aren't permanent obstacles. There's always a way past them. There's a few strategies. You can think positively. Believe in yourself. Take each step, baby steps, each hurdle at a time. Visualize where you want to be. So, when I was running my business, we had to do a business plan. So I wanted to, I didn't have the money to run the business. I was growing it. And I had to go to the bank and get a loan. So I had to do a business plan and bring it into the bank manager. And then he would look me in the eyes. I had to send him, email him the business plan or whatever. And then I'd meet with him. And he'd look me in the eyes, say, "Tell me about your business venture." And it's not like I could look at anything. It had to be from my heart. And he would have read it. And I messed up on the first one. And then I had a tutor, a guy that I knew, older than me, that was successful. And he helped me to realize this and understand that by writing a business plan, even taking and writing it down, writing your goals down, you're more likely to achieve them. If it's from your heart, if it's what you really want. And how do you really know what you want until you start writing it down? And sometimes you start writing it down, you say, no, I don't want that. So you erase it and you put something else in. Or you can do a comparison chart. You can have a T. And you can put the pros and the cons. This is all the reasons I should do this. And this is all the reasons against it. And then you can go down and check that off. So there's all kinds of little tactics that we can do to help us. Take action. So we can think, and we can wait. And isn't that what we were when we were Jehovah's? We're waiting as a Jehovah's Witness. We're waiting for things to happen. We're waiting for Armageddon to come. No, I'm not going to do higher education because the end is right around the corner. We're waiting. So that's a bad place to be. Take action for a Jehovah's Witness. If we're going to look after the earth or we're going to get involved in help, people go down to the food bank. Let's help some people, just like Jesus did. Let's go plant some trees and beautify the earth right now. Let's not wait, because we're going to have to do it anyway, so let's not wait. And all those pictures about the whole earth being burned up and all that stuff, forget about that. That's just all propaganda made by men to make you feel fearful. So take action, thinking, talking, they're important, but eventually you must walk the walk. You'll feel better about yourself and your skills as you make progress and see the rewards that arise from the work you're putting in to make a change. So we have to walk the walk. So there's 7 strategies. Create healthy. I'm going to zip through this. Create healthy routines. Surround yourself with good people. Feed your mind. This is so important coming out of the Jehovah's Witness religion. Feed our mind with new information. Don't believe everything you're going to see. Don't believe me. Don't believe anybody else. But feed your mind with all kinds of information. And there's some truth to the law of attraction. We're talking about that again. And it's funny how everyone talks about it. It's really Jesus talked about that. The type of energy you give off comes back to you, positive and negative. Well, it might not really be a natural law. It's true that your mindset affects how you interact with the world and how other people interact with you. So what you fill your mind with influences how you see yourself in the world around you. So it's important what we put in our mind. Seek out inspiring and uplifting media, from books to movies, social media accounts. You know, my wife, we have a practice. We never watch horror movies or anything like that, well, period. But especially before bed. We're older, so we don't watch TV all day, like kids want to do. But at night we'll watch a sitcom, and it's always kind of a comedy sitcom, Raymond or something like that, a sitcom. And our mind isn't, in some horror movie or Armageddon movie. So this is where some of these, we got to be careful, because sometimes our mind has a hard time separating fiction from reality. Don't let your fear stop you. Self-doubt is normal. You can let that hold you back. I know when I was starting this channel, I had a lot of fear, a lot of self-doubt. And it says, set goals, learning something new or overcoming a hurdle. It releases dopamine in your brain. So dopamine is a positive chemical that your brain releases. Makes you feel good. And you'll physically feel better with each step you take. Instead of feeling frustrated or small when errors occur, remember that you can learn from mistakes. And draw on your inner strength. So it's good. This is a good article. We especially coming out of the religion, we have a lot of self-doubt. Now, I don't have time tonight to cover. We covered this on another video, Stephen Hassan's bite model of authoritarian control. And there's some good information out there. You guys can go right to this guy's site if you're interested. I know I was not interested coming out, learning. A year ago, I wasn't really interested in learning if it was in a cult, because there's no way I was in a religion. That's how I felt. But it's interesting that the bite model does fit Jehovah's Witness religion. So, it talks about behavior control, information control, and it goes on to talk about all of the things. So behavior control, we know, it's very high control about your behavior. They monitor everything you do. I remember when I first was studying, and this is what blew me away. I was 18, raised in the world. I was, did Christmas, everything. And I think I told you guys the story before, but I met a Jehovah's Witness girl, and I was going over to see her. Everything was okay, her sister, she lived with her sister. But one day her sister went out of town, and she phones me up and says, "Why don't you come over for tea?" And I said, "Sure." And I thought nothing of it. I just got baptized at that point. And the darn Jehovah's Witnesses were following me over there. I was over there having tea, and they were actually circling the house. I got pulled into an elders meeting. Anyways, it's very high control. You guys know that if you're in it. Thought control. Very big. They control everything of your thoughts. You got to use the watchtower. Everyone's got to check with the watchtower. The watchtower is like the Bible. And if you can't find it in the watchtower, well, talk to the elders or the circuit overseer. And that's big thought control, man. Can't go to the outside world. They don't want you. You see, many families have family problems. And I know with my family, we should have had family counseling over and over again. But every time I'd go to the elders, I say, "Look, this and this and this is going on." and they send you to the watchtower, and it doesn't help you. So emotional control, big time emotional control, and that's just with all the disfellowshipping and there's a lot of techniques. So we're not going to go through all that. We don't have time tonight.
No, it's quarter after 9
But
already.
we're going to move along here, and we're going to get into YouTubers create cult followings through entertainment. That's us, YouTubers. It's a big thing now. And this guy here is how a YouTuber cult following became an actual cult. So we're just going to look at a little bit of it. It says, yes, people can make a living playing video games, especially on YouTube. But how far does the phenomena go? Well, does it surprise you that fans travel across the country just to hang out with YouTube stars at conventions? Big thing, I didn't realize it. What if we told you that some even booked it all the way to Germany to move in with a YouTuber gamer, join his cult, Athene is a real name, whatever, and a pro gamer who lives with 25 of his followers. Together they make philosophical videos. They perform vaguely defined experiments into human consciousness. And this article says, we spoke to Athene as well as his friend and right-handed man Dries Leeson to find out how deep this rabbit hole goes. So the silly little video games became a huge force. He tapped into this video game phenomenon. And there's other YouTubers that use video games. And they have video games on the backgrounds of their screens, even ones that we know from the XJW community, and good ones. But the video games are interesting. My son was into video games, Xboxing, and he'd spend hours in the basement doing that. He's not a Jehovah's Witness today, but I know I worked him over all those years, poor kid, for playing video games. And one day he comes to me and he says, Dad, and he's a smart kid, in school he was very smart, and he says, Dad, I got a study. I did a study, and I found a corresponding article in the Watchtower, and it said that video games actually increase your reflexes. It's actually good stimulation for the brain. And sure enough, the article said that, and so I let him have an Xbox. I did what every good father would do. The kid brought up a reasonable argument, scientific study, so he got an Xbox. And he bought it with his own money, too. So good on my kid. And lots of kids do that. But I don't know if it's accepted in the Jehovah's Witness religion today. Xboxes and PlayStations and stuff like that. But it's huge online. And this seems to be where it's all going. Number 5, the start of a cult-like following. They're still talking about this article here. And how they started this cult. So I'm not going to get into it all here, but why are cults bad? Well, this is a little old, I realize. This is a person anonymous on Quora, but I thought they really did a nice job of their explanation. And here's what they said. So let me explain some things that occur when you are devout to an asshole. Your money is now their money. If you see money as a piece you'll expect to produce, when you can't produce, you're put down, both literally and figuratively. You have zero value. You're ejected from the cult immediately, either psychologically or physically. So money is a big thing. I don't know in the Jehovah's Witness cult if the money is as big as that, but he says your family is gone, and that's what happens in the Jehovah's Witness one. Number 2, your family's gone. You now have a new family. None of them love you. They're all there for the same thing. They care for you as much as they care for a boss at work. If your old family becomes a threat to your new one, you will be manipulated into ceasing to talk with them. And this is a huge thing with the Jehovah's Witness religion. Huge. Is a disfellowshipping, and even if you have worldly family and you're in the truth, as they call it, well, you shouldn't be spending a lot of time with your worldly family. That's what they say. Number 3, everyone outside the cult is now an enemy. And that's how it's taught in the religion. Everything's from Satan. Everything's Satan. And number 4, you will be assigned a job. You will do your job from sun up till sundown. This guy's was chopping wood, making various baked goods, and walking dogs. I was 13 years old. I've chopped a ton of wood. You are a slave, but you don't feel like one. You've already given up that right to think that way. So this guy went on to talk about how they lived in a cult for 3 to 4 years. His mother died after she could no longer produce the money supply. So yeah, there's some, but we find there's similarities between these cults. So even though the Jehovah's Witness cult might not have been like this one, there's similarities, and that's what we find by looking at the bite model. Now, schizophrenia in Jehovah's Witnesses is another topic we've been talking about a little bit. Now, did you know that followers of Jehovah's Witnesses are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia? 3 times more likely. Now, what are Jehovah's Witnesses' views on illness? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses believe life is sacred, and the willful taking of life under any healthcare circumstance would be wrong. For this reason, a reasonable and humane effort should be made to sustain and prolong life. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses do believe that, with the exception of blood transfusions. And that's where I think it's really wrong. Okay? Can a Jehovah's Witness go to therapy? It's a complex issue. They discourage pursuing psychotherapy. As such, there's a scarce amount of the literature on clinical work in this population. So, we won't have time to get through some of this. Now, we talked about the mental health of Jehovah's Witnesses, 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. So this is a study we've done some research on, and there's some papers on it. Going way back to the Second World War, when all the Jehovah's Witnesses were put into concentration camps, and they studied them, and there was a lot of schizophrenia going on. So I think all these studies, it's important that we look at them as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and if we're experiencing problems, we'd want to get some help, talk about it for sure. And most therapy is talking. So if you're on the chat line right now talking, that's therapy. That's good therapy. And you can either go and pay $150 an hour for that, or you can do it for free on some of these chat lines. Legally, can I talk about my personal experience online? So now, we do need creators out there. So if you want to get into being a creator, especially for ex-Jehovah's Witness, it helps spread the word out. It helps get news out on this side of the fence. To have a cause, an end game. How are you going to help? Maybe a petition within a country. We can help that way. We don't. And if you watched Wally's program, and I'm agreeing with him, we don't want to be promoting any kind of retaliation out there, because that's not who we are. We don't want paper bombs blowing up and shootings and that. That's not the way to handle becoming an ex-JW and leaving. So we have helplines in the descriptions. If you're really having trouble, there's some professional helplines. But get on these channels and talk to people. You can either pay $150 an hour and go see a psychiatrist, or do it right here. But some people really need to talk to a professional, and maybe get some medication to help you through the tough time. So here's a big thing, slander online. The most common examples of slander is accusing the plaintiff of criminal action. So, or infectious disease or something like that. Taking photos, videos of someone inside their home or private place without their knowledge or consent. So this gets dicey online, publicizing matters regarding another person's private life. So we dug up an article on that.
Okay.
And can you tell your own true story even if it impinges on the privacy of your lovers, friends, and family? And the answer is no, you can't. So, but what it does say is, if the matter is it's private lives of others, right? That's what it's talking about. So private matters. So once matters are public, let's say a person made their matter public themselves online. Well, they're already public. They've already publicized their matter. So, yeah. Okay, well, that kind of brings an end to our program. I'm going to go back to the live chat here and see who's online.
Reward these people for still being on with you.
Yeah, you guys, thank you for sticking around. Is that what you're saying?
Show them my video.
Pardon me?
My video.
Your video?
The one that I edited.
Oh, okay. You don't want me to put on the last part?
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can show you the video. Here, let's do that one. Now, my wife put this on. Yeah, she put this video online. This is my first time seeing it, so let's see. This is it. So we were talking about this video. I'm going to do the screen capture here, bring the screen back in. And XJW YouTube creator takes legal action against XJW YouTube creators. That's what's going on right now. So I did a video. I wanted to let the community know how I felt about that. And my wife edited it. I haven't seen this video yet, so she's wanting me to play it. So here,
as groceries, utilities, and life gets more.
Oh,
Mantle Public Health Care.
let's skip the ads. Well, hello guys. I just wanted to touch base with you guys and let you guys know how I feel about creators suing creators. So bear with me here. I'm just going to go on a little bit of a rant. Okay, here it is. Well, thanks for listening, guys. It's good to get it out and let everyone know how I feel. And also, thanks to my good wife over there for doing all the editing and getting this video online for me. Bye for now, and we'll see you next time. And until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now. There, now you can hear me. Thank you.
Say thanks again.
So thanks again, and I appreciate you guys coming online tonight and joining us for the show. So tonight, we're as normal. We're gonna do a little Oceanside song here. Okay, so let me just see here. What do we have? Here we go. I'm gonna put the music on now. And up there. Yeah, I hope you guys like Spanish music. My wife does. So, You know, I have to redo this. Let me see here. There. I
Okay.
Hey, there it is. There. Okay, we're gonna start over here. Here we go. That's the problem with green screens. There. Okay, I'll get up and jig now. Dance. Long dance. Thank you. Well, until next time.